So we got the things, right? We got the coffee and then we got the fucking cigarettes, right? That's what we're doing. Uh, it's all right. What's happened? So a guy called me last week, or what is today? Sunday? Yeah. So last week, right? And he calls me and he's like, dude, because remember I told you I worked for 3 days at that place and they're like, all right, you gotta go. I'm like, all right, what? Man. And now I'm like, what I did wrong? You know, what's happening? How can I improve if you don't tell me what needs improvement, right? And whatever. So I struggled, right? And this guy calls me and he's like, dude, this doesn't have anything to do with you. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He's like, it's probably on their end. They probably hired you and then they got word from their powers that be after they looked at, whatever paperwork was on their end and they figured out they can't pay you whatever they agreed to pay you. And so when I went in for the interview at this place in Phoenix for a BHT position, right? They offered me 18. And they're like, is that gonna work for you? And I said, no, it's not. And I said, my last place of employment was paying me 22. So 18 would be a large cut, right? And due to the fact that I live where I live and then I have what I have, I can't really make any less than 20. And so what I said to him was like, look, let me get my foot in the door. Let me go to work at 20, right? And then you can see how I operate. I can see how you operate. Let's do it like that with, you know, a future possibility, a near future possibility of bumping that up, to 22, back to what it was, right? And it sounded reasonable. It sounded so reasonable, in fact, that they agreed to it. And so I went on this fucking thing for the weekend with a bunch of fellas, and it was a men's retreat. It was cool. And so they called me while I was out there doing that thing. They're like, yeah, we'll pay you 20. You can start on, it was like a Tuesday. Yeah, it was a Tuesday. And then, in 3 months, we'll bump you up to 22, right? And I'm like, great, let's go. So I signed all the paperwork and I did all the things and payroll. And in fact, we got all situated. And then 3 days later, he's like, now you gotta go. And I'm like, what am I missing, dude? Like, what are you not telling me? And he's like, no, it's just not working out, right? And so then my buddy calls me the other day and he's like, yeah, this doesn't have anything to do with you. That, like, the powers that be for him were saying, dude, what are you thinking? We can't pay this guy. You know what I mean? We just can't. But he would, and it makes sense to me, right? Because the guy who let me go, he wouldn't explain that he's an idiot. He wouldn't, you know what I mean? And so maybe that doesn't have anything to do with me, right? And maybe it does. The bottom line is I'll never know. It's whatever. And so all I see that is, I invited God in. And so the story with that is that a while ago, I was dating this girl, and man, we used to fight all the time. And if we weren't fighting, we were fucking doing other things, And we struggled with this relationship, and I really had the best intentions, and I really wanted it to work. And we stayed together for like 8 months, dude, but it was tough. And one night, I sit her down, and I'm like, look, we're going to invite God into what we're doing, right? Because it seems as though every time we make a decision for us and what we're doing, it ends up in failure, dude, in flames, right? So I sit her down and I'm like, look, we're going to invite God in. And so we do the little prayer meditation thing. And we're like, God. And so I said out loud, God, I need you. You're invited into what we're doing and help us fucking make all this work, right? And then, like the next day, we did it again and it ended up in a massive fight. She was like, get out. And I'm like, you suck. And it was a fight, dude. It was a mess. But and as I'm driving home, I'm thinking, what is happening, dude? And I thought, I invited God in to do what he does, and he did what he did, and it ended, right? And so it's not the point of how that didn't work out. The point is that I invited God in, and he, directed me somewhere else to do something else, right? And I've been way more sane as a result of that relationship not working out. When I see that I made a bunch of mistakes, and I learned, and I've grown, and I know not to make those same mistakes again, right? And it worked out. It just, I'm sad in some aspects of it. I see that I've got to make some amends in some aspects of it, and I'm willing, and I'm all about it, right? That was different because I could see where I had made a mistake, and I could see where I could make improvement, right? So this one, I invited God into what I'm doing with work. Like, I don't understand. To do something, and then this whole thing didn't work out, and I'm like, no, 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 that's not what I wanted, because now I gotta pay for that thing. And but anyway, the guy called me the other day, and he's like, dude, I don't think this has anything to do with you. I think it was a mistake on their end, and they're just not gonna admit to it or whatever, or fess up to it. Because how would that look? Oh, by the way, we agreed to pay you, and we can't pay you what you want for whatever. Um, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm okay at what I do, right? But there's also now a doubt that maybe I'm doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, right? And so I gotta change. I gotta do some things different, and so now we continue. So the good news is I'm learning, right? I want to stay connected. I'm making progress, right? And so what do I do in the meantime? I'm waiting on the check in the mail from Charles Schwab. I invested some money in some stuff, and it grew, and it's cool. And now I got that money. As soon as the check comes in the mail, I got rent paid, and I got the groceries and the cell phone bill and whatever, right? And so now, what's in the meantime? What occurs to me is I know there's people out there that struggle with things like boredom. What the fuck am I going to do now? And the fear, and am I going to make it? And I think human nature is, we're just all looking for some sense of security. We're looking to be safe. We want to know we're going to make it. And the thing is, I can't see what God sees, and it pisses me off sometimes, right? And so, you know, if one person in a room calls you an asshole, probably shrug that shit off, right? But if 10 people in the same day call you an asshole, maybe you're an asshole, right? So if one guy says to me, God's gonna come through, maybe, but if 10 people in the same day tell me that God's gonna come through, he's probably gonna come through, right? Because how do I find God? How do I see God? I see him through other people, dude. And everybody's telling me the same thing. So I love you guys. I hate that you say what you say, how you say it, when you say it. Don't stop though. God damn it. Anyway. So now we're gonna do the things. We're gonna go to the place with the people. Nux tonight is what we're doing. And then next week we're gonna have fight night, we're gonna have barbecue, we're gonna have fellowship, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna go swimming. I'm not gonna go swimming, but people are gonna go swimming. And so that's what we're gonna do. And I'm gonna continue to be like, yeah, Dougie Fresh, still need a job. Happy birthday to my Aunt Stephanie. I love you so much. Mom, I love you. I know you'll catch this and be like, yeah, I'm okay, dude. All right, thanks.